Okay, good afternoon or good morning or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from the world. My name is Tony Zhang. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer here at OptionsPlay, and I'm doing this session because of very popular demand from investors asking us how to better utilize the OptionsPlay platform. So today I want to take some time and give you an overview of the platform itself. We'll do this fairly quickly. I don't want to take up too much of your time today, and we will be doing more frequent platform overview sessions. I'll show you kind of what we're going to cover today, what we'll cover in future sessions, and make this a ongoing process because there's so much in the platform. I won't be able to show you everything today, but I'm going to give you an overview today. I'm going to show you which sections we're going to spend more time on in future sessions. So let's go ahead and get started. And I know there are so many of you that are joining here, so feel free to type into the chat window where you're joining us from. I see people from all over the world joining us, so welcome and thank you so much for being here. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, before we do, what we are going to discuss here is purely for education and demonstration purposes. The examples that I'm going to use today is not a solicitation or recommendation to buy or sell any specific securities. But the primary thing that I want you to be able to walk away from today's session is a clear understanding as to how can I streamline my investing workflow using the OptionsPlay platform. And thank you so much for all of you that are in the chat windows very actively telling us where you are from. As you can see, we have investors from all over the world using the OptionsPlay platform, and I could not thank all of you enough for the support that you guys provide. So I want to provide something back by showing you how to utilize this platform. So at the core of what I want to iterate to you today is, one, how we built this platform in a way so that you can streamline your workflow. We did this, and I'm one of the co-founders here at OptionsPlay. And when we built the platform, we built it because the workflow of a typical options trader, meaning what I was going through 10 years ago before we started OptionsPlay, was that I had 3 monitors on my desktop because I had one monitor for charts, one monitor for the option chains, another monitor for some type of analytics screen, and I needed 3 monitors because I was tired of going back and forth between one screen to the other screen, and there was so much manual work. So we set out to build OptionsPlay because we wanted to streamline our workflow. So I'm going to show you the 3 panels in OptionsPlay, what we call the what, the why, and the how of options trading, and how we built these 3 panels to make it easier to streamline your workflow. Everything from idea generation and understanding what to trade to giving you a clear understanding as to the directional view of the security that you're referring to, and then trading analysis all on a single screen. So you don't have to constantly go back and forth between 2 different platforms or 2 different screens. The second thing I want you to be able to walk away from today's session is a clear understanding as to how you can gain confidence in your directional view using the proprietary trend and relative strength indicators that we provide. And these 2 indicators will help you provide a confirmation of the directional view that you might have on an underlying security. And lastly, now that you know what to trade, why you want to trade it, the question is, how do you trade it? We have automated strategies and we have guidance. The automated strategies allow you to apply best practices when you're utilizing, excuse me, I apologize. The automated strategies that we provide allow you to apply the best practices that professional traders use when they're trading these option strategies instantly, whether you're bullish, bearish, or you're neutral on an individual stock or ETF. How do you apply those best practices? That's what the platform automates for you. And then if you are going to use any modifications on your own, if you're going to create your own strategies, providing you with guidance on risk and reward and probability of success so that you understand your strategies before you implement them. So that's what we're going to go over during today's session using the OptionsPlay platform. And if any of you that are joining here today that don't have access to the OptionsPlay platform, in a few minutes, I'll show you how to get access to all of the things that I'm going to show you here today. But launching into the OptionsPlay platform, there are a lot of things, like I said, on this platform itself. And I'm not going to have enough time to go through everything. But today, what we're going to do is we're going to cover it at a high level, and I'm going to show you what other specific areas we're going to dive into in future sessions when you join us. So when you log into the platform, it's divided into three sections. You have trade ideas, watch list, and portfolio on the left-hand side. In the middle panel, you have what we call our security analysis panel. And on the right-hand side, we have trading and income. We call these three panels the what, the why, and the how of options trading. So the what panel is pretty straightforward, meaning what symbols should you pay attention to for today? So we have trade ideas, we have watch lists, and we have portfolio. These three sections are somewhat self-explanatory. The trade idea section are technical-based scans that we generate on a daily basis. You can filter these scans based on bullish, bearish, market cap, the sectors, and the scans themselves. This provides you with a starting point of new ideas that you can look at every single day. I will tell you that I like to typically sort this list by relative strength, because I want to know which stocks are the weakest if I'm looking for bearish opportunities and which stocks are strongest if I'm looking for bullish opportunities, and vice versa. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit in terms of the color coding on this, because the color coding is very important. Now, let's filter out some of the small cap names. Let's look at just some large cap and mega cap names. As you can see, I have 18 ideas. And when I sort it by relative strength, as you can see, Snapchat, which has a strength of 1, is on the top of the list, and then Northrop Grumman, Occidental Petroleum. These are the ones that is a strength of 10. And what this tells me is, out of this list of 18 ideas, which stocks are the strongest stocks in the market, which stocks are the weakest stocks in the market. So Snap, Zoom, these are the weakest stocks. Northrop and Occidental, these are the strongest stocks. So if I'm looking for trend following, I'll likely look for these types of stocks, right? Strong stocks with green across the board. As you can see, they're green on the left-hand side, telling me that the trends are bullish, and the arrows tell me the short-term trends are bullish as well. Versus Snapchat, as you can see, a strength of 1, a red across the board, that's telling me there are bearish trends and it's a weak stock. And we're going to talk about what that means here in 1 second. But visually, without having to pull up a chart, without having to know anything about the stock, I can quickly get a sense out of these 18 ideas which stocks are weak in the markets and will likely continue lower, which stocks are strong and likely continue higher, and vice versa, some of the reversals. And we'll talk to kind of what that looks like here in a second. And then we have the watch list feature. The watch list feature is a very powerful feature. It's something that I use a lot. And I encourage, if you haven't used the watch list very often, to take a look at it and explore the different types of watch lists that are available to you. First of all, you have all of the sector spiders. This is also something that I start my day looking at. I want to know what sectors are strongest, which sectors are weakest. So if I'm looking for bullish opportunities, I tend to focus on the strong sectors. I look for either the sectors themselves, or look for specific names within a sector. And if I'm looking for bearish opportunities, I might look at some of the weak sectors. So this immediately helps me start off my day so I know where to focus on from a top-down perspective. And then you can drill down into individual sectors. So if I want to look at communications, I want to know what are the weakest stocks in communications. I can quickly drill down using this watch list tool. There are also lots of other useful watch lists, like what stocks have upcoming earnings that are liquid, which symbols have the highest yielding cover calls or short puts or straddles and strangles. You also have momentum watch lists based on bullish and bearish momentum. You have unusual volume. You have fundamentals. There's so many different watch lists that are pre-built for you. So depending on what type of trader you are, what kind of opportunities you are, I highly encourage you to explore the watch list feature. Now, I'm not going to spend any time on the portfolio feature today, just because that's going to be a whole nother section on its own. What I want to jump into is the security analysis panel. This is designed to help you give you snapshot understanding of an underlying stock. And the most important indicators are the ones in this right-hand box over here, the 1 month and 6 month trend and the relative strength. These two indicators alone give you confirmation of your directional view. So a stock that has 1 month and 6 month trend that's bullish and a relative strength score of 9 out of 10 confirms that this is a strong stock in the relative market and exhibits bullish trends. These are opportunities. These are bullish continuation patterns, and vice versa, as I showed you before in Snap. Snap is the exact opposite. This is a stock with weak relative strength and 1 month and 6 month trends that are bearish. So this is a bearish continuation play. And then you have things kind of in between, like Netflix. It has a score of 2, meaning it has poor relative strength. But as you can see, the trends have started to improve. And they've improved since July 15th, as you can see here. On July 15th, we had weak relative strength, but the trends, as you can see on the bottom bar here on the lower left, on the bottom of the chart, started to turn yellow and green. And notice how it turned before this trend started. So we're already, a bit late here in the trend itself. But as you can see, this is really where we could have captured quite a bit of upside here in early trends. And this is really where you can spot trend reversals using this type of watch list feature. And I can do it without even having to look at a chart, because as you can see, Comcast, red across the board, Take-Two, red across the board. That tells me that I'm not going to look for bullish opportunities in these types of stocks. But Dish Network, as you can see, even though it has a poor relative strength, it's the trend color has started to improve. And I can pull up a chart here then to look at Dish Network. As you can see, Dish Network earlier in the trend, similar setup to Netflix, but much earlier in the trend. So perhaps this hasn't quite broken out from that resistance level yet, around 19 and a half or so. So this could be a candidate for an early trend opportunity. So this is how I use the OptionsPlay tool, looking at trade ideas, looking at watch lists to find opportunities if I'm looking for one. So Discovery, or Dish Network rather, could be an opportunity that's early, just developing. As you can see, the trends have been bearish this whole time. And just about a week ago, we started to see trends improve, and it hasn't broken out yet. Just like Netflix, we saw it, but just we're a little late here on Netflix. As you can see, the trends turned virtually 3 weeks ago, and it has already broken out, and it's moved quite a bit since then. Dish Network, early days. That's how I spot opportunities here in this market, using the watch list tool without even having to look at a chart first. And then once I look at the chart, I can quickly decide, okay, whether I'm too late in a Netflix, not worth my time, or in a name like Dish Network where I'm still early and I could potentially capture a big move. And that's really where I turn to the trading tab. And this is where we'll spend a little bit of time here today showing you the different opportunities. But when you're trading, you're basically saying, I have a directional view, and I want to express that directional view in the markets. So in this particular case, I'm looking at Dish Network. I'm looking for a potential move higher here. I might click on bullish and see 3 bullish opportunities. Now, these 3 strategies are automated for you. So what I was saying before, we're applying the best practices for you so you can compare buying the stock versus buying a call option. The call option has the expiration date and strike price already selected for you, and the vertical spread. This is a debit vertical spread. And you can compare these 3 strategies side by side using the risk and the P&L simulator. This P&L simulator allows you to say, what happens if Dish Network breaks out to, let's say, that 23.5 level, which is the prior highs from late May. Let's say it breaks out to 23.5. What is my potential profit in each of these 3 strategies, and compare them side by side so that I can see if I bought the stock, I'm looking at a 20% return, 150% return on the call, 166% return on the vertical, and vice versa. What if Dish Network drops back into the bottom of the range, 16, let's say it reaches down to $17. How much do I lose? I lose $245 in the stock, $180 in the call, $150 in the vertical spread. So I can know what my potential worst case outcome from a risk perspective is and what my best case outcome from a reward perspective is. It's important to look at both. Arguably, it's more important to look at the risk side first. Make sure you're comfortable with the risk before you proceed with any of these strategies. And I highly, highly encourage you to use our risk and investment calculator. And we have a way to adjust your profile risks so that you can choose how much you're willing to risk per trade using this feature here on your tool. I've already set this so that every single trade, I never risk more than $2,000 on a trade. And every time I click on calculate, it will tell me exactly how many contracts to buy. And then I can actually compare apples to apples. So if the stock reaches 23.5, I know I'll make $413 in the stock, $3,000 in the call, and $3,200 in the call spread. And then if the stock doesn't go in the directional view that I expect it to, I lose, the roughly $2,000 that I'm willing to risk on this particular trade. So this allows me to make a fair apples to apple comparison between different strategies and know what my potential risks are and what my potential rewards are. It's so important for you to understand that before you place a trade. I cannot tell you enough how many investors tell me after a trade has been made, hey, I lost so much money on this one trade. And unfortunately, that's too late to figure out what the right amount of risk was and how many contracts to trade. My job with this tool is to help prevent that to begin with. You should never be in a position where a trade, quote unquote, loses big or loses too much, because you should have prepared well before you enter the trade how many contracts to trade, what is my worst possible outcome, and know that in that worst possible outcome, you are comfortable with the risk that you take. And if any of you can relate to that, please type 1 into the chat window where you feel that you've lost a huge amount of capital after you've gotten into the trade. And I know many of you will say ones because many of you email me when that happens. And hopefully many of you have learned over the past few months after we've introduced this new tool that you've got in there and set your settings and you use this tool every single time you place your trade. Arguably a very subtle, a very small tool, but arguably one of the most important tools in your toolbox when you're trading. How many of you have used this tool? Press yes into the chat window if you have set your defaults and you use the risk and investment calculator when you place your trades. Type yes if you have, and type no if you haven't. And I see a lot of no's. So for every one of you that have responded to no, go into your risk and investment calculator, click on this button here and go and set your settings. Make sure that you click that you risk no more than 2% of your total portfolio, enter your portfolio value and save this as default. And every time you go to your risk and investment calculator, it will have this number pre-calculated based on what your risk tolerance is, and click on calculate and it will automatically calculate the number of contracts on your behalf. You can do this for bullish strategies, you can do this for bearish strategies, and you can do this now for implied volatility strategies. So now what we cover are the credit spreads. A lot of you have asked us to automate credit spreads. A lot of you like trading credit spreads. Regardless of what stock that you're looking on trading, you simply type in the symbol, click on high implied volatility, and it'll automatically select the bullish credit spread, the bearish credit spread. And for those of you that are a little bit more advanced, or a little bit more sophisticated with a larger portfolio that like to sell straddles, you also now have the automated straddle. So these are strategies that you want to use when the IV rank are above 50, or the IV rank is above 50. Now that's a general rule of thumb. You can use credit spreads and when times when IV rank is below 50. You can also use it when it's above 50, but many people like to use it when IV rank tends to be higher. And these strategies also automate the expiration date and the strike prices for you. And again, use the risk and investment calculator to calculate the number of contracts and use the P&L simulator. This is the most important tool in your toolbox, the risk and investment calculator and the P&L simulator, so that you know how much you can potentially lose, how much you can potentially make, and always ask yourself, in a worst case scenario, if I lose 100% of the max loss in this particular trade, will I be able to survive another day, or will I be really licking my wounds? Because if the answer is I will be licking my wounds, you should not be getting into that trade. Only if you feel comfortable with that risk should you get into that trade. And lastly, you can modify any of these strategies. You can use our strategy constructor. You can construct any of these 45 plus strategies that are supported by OptionsPlay. If you want to fully customize this, you can move the strike step up one, down one. You can do a lot of things to modify these types of strategies. And no matter what you do, the tool will always provide you with an understanding of how much you can potentially make, how much you can potentially lose, and the probability of profit. Now, the challenge with these three numbers is that it's really difficult to compare them. So many people tell me, well, what do I do with when the reward is unlimited or the risk is unlimited? How do I calculate risk reward? The answer is you can't. But there are reasonable ways to assume what your risk or reward is, because when your call option is unlimited reward, chances of the stock going to infinity is low. So what we do is we weight the probabilities by the risk to reward. And that's why we created the OptionsPlay score, because comparing these three numbers is next to impossible. Certainly in your head, it's very difficult. So we created the OptionsPlay score so that you can, in one very clear number, compare the risk to reward and the probabilities. This is the guidance that I was referring to on each one of these strategies that allows you to understand the risk to reward, the probabilities of success, and how well balanced each strategy is, and comparing them side by side so that you can get a sense for which one gives you better expected outcome and which one gives you worse expected outcome based on the risk to reward and the probabilities. And lastly, we have a paper trading feature. So if you're looking at the account and if you're looking at a specific trade, what you can do is you can set up portfolios and simply add a position to your paper trading portfolio. You can even add it to your live portfolio if you're using this to track your live portfolios. Now, I don't have enough time to get into the portfolio tool today, but you can simply add the position and it will show up in your portfolio tool. You can set up as many portfolios as you want by clicking on the Manage button here on the right-hand side when you click on Portfolio. And when you do that, you can create a TD portfolio, a Schwab portfolio, a Fidelity portfolio, a paper trading portfolio. However many portfolios you have, you can create. And you can manage the trades by clicking on a trade and adding it to your portfolio. Or if you want to manage a specific position, you can click on the position, you can choose to close the position, you can roll the position, and you can trade it in that portfolio, and it will actually modify or update the positions that you have. So if I'm closing out a position, I can click on the portfolio that I own it in and click on add position, and it will remove that position because I'm closing this particular position. So I'm not going to spend too much time on the portfolio tool here today because that is going to be a whole nother session just on that tool itself, so that you can get a better understanding of how to utilize that tool. But at a very high level, that's how you can utilize the OptionsPlay tool to better understand how to find opportunities, how to validate those opportunities or confirm those views that you have, and then quickly find an option strategy that you can deploy to click on trade and enter the trade into your broker's platform as a single strategy, and simply add it to your position, your portfolio here in OptionsPlay, so that you can track those positions. So like I said, these sessions are meant to be kept short so that it doesn't take up too much of your time, but gives you kind of a very quick overview of the platform and an understanding as to how to use the platform. So with that, what I'll do is I'll show you some of the upcoming education events that we are hosting specifically on the platform itself, so that you can get a better understanding of how to use different parts of the platform. So the next one we'll cover is the OptionsPlay Hub. This is something that many of you use, but some of you may not be familiar. How many of you are familiar with the OptionsPlay Hub, and how many of you are not? It's this button here on the upper right-hand corner called Education and Resources. If you are familiar with it, type yes. If you aren't, type no, because this is really where you can find a lot of resources. You have the upcoming events calendar, you have all of our recordings, you have our credit spread report, our cover call report, liquidity and IB ranking report, our earnings calendar, unusual volume report. This is all available to you as an OptionsPlay member when you click on the education and resources section here on the upper right-hand corner. So I encourage you to explore that here as well, but we will host a session here next time on just the OptionsPlay Hub and walk you through the different resources that are there. We're also hosting a separate session just on OptionsPlay portfolio, just so you can understand best practices for analyzing and managing your open trades using our portfolio tool. And then we'll do a separate session just on the income tab. selling cover calls, selling cash secured puts. Many of you focus entirely your options trading on just those strategies alone. So we'll make sure that we cover a session just on how to utilize the income tab to generate high yielding income for your portfolio utilizing options. So those are some of the upcoming events that we'll be hosting on the platform walkthrough to give you better visibility and understanding of how to utilize this platform and maximizing your membership. So with that, like I said, if you do not currently have an OptionsPlay account or membership, you can sign up for a free 30-day trial at optionsplay.com. It'll give you 30-day access to the platform, the analysis, the trading signals we send out every single week, the weekly education that me, Jess, Prakash, and Rick host every single week to teach you options, teach you technical analysis, teach you our platform so that you can become a better trader and understand how to navigate the broader markets. This is all available to you at OptionsPlay.com. You can sign up for a free 30-day trial. You don't need a credit card to get started. You just have to go to that link here on your screen. After 30 days, you would, if you choose to use the platform, you just have to subscribe to continue having your access. And I'll post this link here into the chat window for anyone who wants to access. But again, it's just at optionsplay.com. And with that, I just want to thank everyone for your time this afternoon. I hope that this was useful in giving you a better understanding of the platform. And yes, a replay will be made available to you with the slides as well, so that you can follow along and rewatch this at your own pace. If you're a member, you'll get access to the recording and automatically emailed to you. With that, thank you so much. I hope you guys have a great trading day, and we'll see you guys back here in a couple of weeks on our next session for the OptionsPlay Hub. With that, thank you so much and have a great trading day.